Welcome in everyone to another NFL mock draft for 2021. This is another full first round, all 32 team mock draft. Well, not all 32 teams because some of them don't have first round picks, so they will not be involved in this discussion. Maybe within the next week or so, we'll do a second round where some of the teams that haven't been featured in any of these videos get an opportunity to shine. Having said that, we are 10 days away from the NFL draft, so what better time than a mock draft Monday to produce another mock draft? If you're new here, a few things to note. Number one, I don't take running backs in the first round, so that's not going to happen. We'll discuss that towards the end of the video. Number two, I'm not going to allow players who have signed to teams in free agency or players that are already on the roster to dictate what I do here today. So if I make a draft pick and you're like, well, we already have this guy, and this guy, that's fine. I don't care. I legitimately don't give a damn. So I'm just going to go through and see what I think is the best value for each team. And there will be disagreements. Of course, you can let me know what those disagreements are in the comment section below. I'm always intrigued to have discussions with fans of other teams and Vikings fans alike to let me know what you think about the draft possibilities and realities for your team or the Minnesota Vikings coming up here in 10 days. So without further ado, let's begin. There are already two draft picks on the board behind me that you can see. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall to Jacksonville, and Zach Wilson, number 2 overall to the Jets. I believe that those two are pretty much set in stone, basically just reading the tea leaves from what's going on around the league. And then I'm going to throw in that I think this next pick is set in stone, but we're just sort of working through the media BS, if you will, and that's going to be Justin Fields to the 49ers. 3rd overall. And the reason I didn't have that one on the board to start is because I haven't really got a chance to talk about it. The Mac Jones thing is dumb. I don't understand that at all. What has changed between the national championship game and right now that makes anybody think Mac Jones is a better quarterback prospect than Justin Fields? It makes no sense. There's been some great articles put out on the internet, primarily the Draft Network, talking about some of the false narratives going on about Justin Fields. I don't believe any of it. The stuff that, what's his name, Dan Orlovsky put out on the internet a couple weeks ago, it's all slander. Justin Fields is going to be the 3rd overall pick in the draft by the San Francisco 49ers when all is said and done. And I am 99.9% confident in that prediction. So the actual draft starts with the 4th overall pick. And the Atlanta Falcons are on the board. The Atlanta Falcons would love to trade out of this pick, but they find themselves in a little bit of a pickle because the Bengals aren't going to take a quarterback. The Dolphins aren't going to take a quarterback. So there's really no need for any team to jump to number 4 and pay all that draft capital, pay that premium to get a quarterback. So the Falcons would like to move out. Unfortunately, they cannot, but compensation is pretty damn good. They're going to get the best offensive player in the draft, arguably. That's Kyle Pitts from Florida. Really make that passing game just absolutely deadly with Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. And I understand how many people are taking quarterbacks at this spot in the NFL mock draft community. I'm not one of them because, yeah, Matt Ryan's towards the end of his career. You never know when you're going to be in this position to take a quarterback again. I understand all those things, but that doesn't help them right now. And I understand that they're a bad team that's probably not going to win anything, but that doesn't help them right now. Why take quarterback 4 with the 4th overall pick? And if you can't trade down, take the best player available. It makes sense to me. Moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals, who debuted some new uniforms today. I don't know if you saw those. But one of the things that I found funny was the one photo where you can see Joe Burrow's gnarly ACL surgery scar on his knee. It's just, the thing is like a mile long. And that got me to thinking that there is no way that they are not going to spend draft capital this year to protect Joe Burrow at the quarterback position. I know they signed Riley Reif. That's great. Not a long-term solution. He's on the wrong side of 30. Jonah Williams is good, but he's not as good, in my opinion, as their first-round pick this year. That's going to be Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. He goes to Cincinnati. Moving on to the Dolphins, who probably would have liked to have Penei Sewell, but from what I've heard from beat reporters that cover the Dolphins, that they're pretty happy with what they have on the offensive line. Could it be upgraded? Sure, yeah, absolutely, but they seem to be pretty satisfied with what's on the roster. So I'm going to give the Miami Dolphins a big-time weapon, reunite him with Joe Burrow. That's going to be Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU, opted out of 2020, but is one of the more dominant college football players that we've ever seen. It's just kind of a shame that we didn't get to see him play again. So Jamar Chase goes to the Dolphins. I understand they have Devontae Parker and they signed Will Fuller. Will Fuller's a 1-year contract. That's going to be one of the things that you're going to hear me say a lot. 1-year contracts to a lot of free agents this year. So that doesn't mean that all of these players are going to be sticking around beyond that. So why not give Tua Tagovailoa the most possible, or I said reunite with Joe Burrow. Why not give Tua Tagovailoa the most possible chance, the most possible loaded weaponry that he has for a chance to succeed? So Tua Tagovailoa doesn't get reunited with one of his wide receivers, but he gets the best one on the board, and that is Jamar Chase at 6 overall. Next, we have our first trade. So we are going to do something crazy, and we are going to trade up for one of these quarterbacks that are still on the board, and that is going to be the Washington football team. I don't have a Washington football team magnet yet, so we're going to have to deal with the pass. So the Washington football team is going to move up to 7 overall, and you're thinking, wow, that's a huge move, 20 to 7. Dan Snyder's fucking crazy. He'll do some crazy stuff. I mean, if you think this is out of the realm of possibility, go back and watch some of the older drafts where team owners have probably stepped beyond their football knowledge and taken over what teams want to do. I mean, he did the same thing with Dwayne Haskins a couple years ago. He sort of forced that pick, so he's going to do it once again. Washington football team trades all the way up to number 7. They take Trey Lance, quarterback from North Dakota State, who had another pro day today. Looks fantastic throwing the ball. And the Lions move down. Lions strike me as a trade candidate to trade down, just to sort of mention this real quick, because they don't have a very good roster. There's not a lot of very exciting young players on that roster. They need draft capital. This is a rebuild for them. I don't care what they say. They need to get draft picks, so I'm having them trade down. Next, we have Rashawn Slater of the Carolina. I just sort of gave that pick away. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go ahead and put the Lions up here at pick, where's the Washington football team? 19. I don't know why I said 20. So they will pick at 19. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. I already said it, so I'm just going to go ahead and put up on the board Rashawn Slater. They were way too aggressive, way too public about their desire to upgrade at the quarterback position. That has left them with almost no options. So that is what they're left with, and that is best player available. And Rashawn Slater is one of the best offensive linemen in this draft. A lot of people even have him higher than Penei Sewell. I'm not one of them. Next, we have the Denver Broncos, who would probably also love a quarterback, but why not give Drew Lock one more year? Let's rebuild the defense. And I'm going to go linebacker here. And this is going to be my first surprise, I think, of the draft. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame. I think he's more of the linebacker prototype of the future of the NFL as opposed to Micah Parsons. He also comes without the off-the-field baggage that Micah Parsons has. Whether or not that is going to be a thing that comes up in the draft, who knows? But he had some issues at Penn State. So I'm going to go with Owusu-Koramoah for the Denver Broncos at 9 overall. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys. This is a chalk pick. I've been making it for months. Patrick Surtain, cornerback from Alabama. I don't see how they go any other route unless Kyle Pitts somehow falls from 4 to maybe 8 and they trade up and go get him. Jerry Jones is another one of those owners who's fucking crazy. He could do a Dan Snyder and just absolutely destroy this first round by trading up to get a Kyle Pitts. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that we're dealing with here. Next, we have the New York Football Giants. I think this is another opportunity for the Giants to trade down. I think they're in the position that I think they're going to go with is going to make sense when I make the pick. So I'm going to have the Patriots trade up, and they're going to jump the Philadelphia Eagles, who probably want this guy, and that's going to be Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver from Alabama. And you may be thinking, well, they just spent all this money in free agency on stuff. Yeah, I understand. I understand that they haven't hit on wide receivers in the first round, a la N'Keal Harry. I understand that they went out and they signed a whole bunch of free agents. Don't care. I think they're going to go be aggressive. I think Bill Belichick is upset about what happened this past season, going 7-9, watching Tom Brady win a Super Bowl. He's going to be aggressive this year. I think the Patriots are just going in a different direction, and they're going to try to load up and right the ship. So Jalen Waddle goes to the New England Patriots at number 11. All right, so next we have the Philadelphia Eagles picking at number 12. We're going to put the Giants up here at 15. That is their new home for the first round. The Philadelphia Eagles would have probably liked to have Jalen Waddle, but that's okay. Compensation prize is Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama, going to give Jalen Hurts every opportunity to succeed this year that they can, to make sure Howie Roseman doesn't look like an idiot for drafting him in the second round last year, which I have no problem with Jalen Hurts. It's just the nature of the nature of the situation, if you will. Next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, and based on some reporting that I've heard from various people that cover the Los Angeles Chargers, I believe that they're probably going to go a different route. New head coach, new defense coming in. I think they're going to go with J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina. Had himself a hell of a pro day His ascension of the draft ranks kind of reminds me of C.J. Henderson last year, where Henderson said at the combine, look, you don't sign second-year contracts for cornerbacks because they're good at tackling. You sign them because they're good at coverage. J.C. Horn, pretty damn good coverage corner. Gets a little handsy sometimes with the penalty and, draws some penalties, but I think he'll be able to clean that up with the Chargers. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who, of course, Vikings fans, if this is the pick that you're here for, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer because they're going to trade down. I'm going to have them trade with the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts will move up to 14 overall, and their selection is going to be Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. The Indianapolis Colts need a new left tackle after the retirement of, I believe it was, Anthony Gonzalez. So I hope that's the right player. I can't remember for the life of me right at this moment. So that is the pick at 14 for them. So we will move the Vikings all the way down to 21. That is their new home for the first round. New York Giants traded down a few spots with the New England Patriots. They're back on the board. I think that they're going to go in the trenches, and they're going to go on defense. So I'm thinking edge rusher for this one. And you could tell me if I'm wrong, but this is just kind of how I feel playing things out. I'm going to go with Kwity Paye, the edge rusher from Michigan. He will be the first edge rusher off the board, I believe. I don't think I took another one. Nope, he's the first. Kwity Paye goes to the New York Giants at 15 overall. Next, we have the Cardinals. Probably would have liked to have seen J.C. Horn fall to them. It doesn't happen, so they're going to go with the next best thing. That's going to be Greg Newsome, the cornerback from Northwestern. If you saw his pro day, you're probably all too familiar with that guy. I think that we could see great things out of him, and I think the Cardinals are expecting him to step in and contribute right away. Next, we have the Raiders at 17 overall. This is going to be another trade, so we're going to have the New Orleans Saints move up. Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton are just as crazy as the other couple of guys that I've had made trades. Bill Belichick is the only sane one that I've had done a trade so far, and that's only because that, he's probably playing with house money in a bad mood. So, but Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, no strangers to trading up in the draft. They see somebody falling down the boards that they could absolutely use, and that's going to be Micah Parsons from Penn State. I don't know why they let Quan Alexander go. Haven't looked into that situation. But they get their guy at number 17 overall after a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders will move all the way down to 28. Mike Mayock taking a back seat to this first round. All right, next we have the Miami Dolphins with their second first-round pick. I think this is going to be another edge rusher. I'm going to go with Jalen Phillips. They keep him in state. They take the risk with him in the medicals. I think Jalen Phillips, if you saw my top 10 edge rushers prospects videos yesterday, you know that I'm super high on Jalen Phillips. I think without the medical history, he's probably a top 10 selection and definitely the first edge to come off the board. But in this scenario, he's not. The concussions are a concern. He's going to go at 18, which is still pretty high for him considering the medicals. But I think that's what the Dolphins do. They address the defensive line with their second first-round pick. Next, we have the Detroit Lions. They're going to take an edge as well, I believe, because I think that they were hoping Micah Parsons probably fell further than he did. Saints jump up and get him. So they're going to settle for Azeez Ojulari, edge rusher from Georgia. Is it a great fit? Maybe not. Is it a positional need? Probably not. Does Dan Campbell care? No, absolutely not. He's looking for guys who have an attitude and an engine to get after the quarterback and make plays, and that's what Ojulari will bring to the table. Dan Campbell will do what he wants because if he doesn't get his way, he was probably coming for your kneecaps. Next, we have the Chicago Bears at 20 overall. They don't have to make any moves. Maybe they do trade up to take this player, but I honestly didn't see a trade partner that really made that much sense for them. So I'm going to go with Mac Jones, quarterback from Alabama. They get their backup quarterback for the year. They still have Nick Foles on the roster. Andy Dalton will play out the year as the starter, but this enables Ryan Pace to have an excuse to keep his job. Be like, hey, we drafted Mac Jones. Why don't you give me some more time to put some stuff around him and help him succeed? And if I can't, then fire me. So I think this is one of those situations where they're sort of pigeonholed into trying to save their jobs by taking a quarterback because, let's face it, Andy Dalton's probably not going to be on this team next year, and I think they want to unload Nick Foles as soon as humanly possible. So that is the pick for 20 overall. That brings us back to the Minnesota Vikings, who traded down to 21. I think this makes sense for them. They need to get a second-round pick. Rick Spielman always does this. He likes to get more draft capital. In this position, I have them going with Jason Oweh, the edge rusher from Penn State. I think they're going to like him and sort of over-compare him to Danielle Hunter. I don't think they're going to go offensive line because I believe that they truly believe that the offense was so good last year. It'll be so good this year despite having, all the same pieces. And I think that that's why they've done things like re-sign Rashad Hill, Dakota Dozier and Chad Beebe because they believe that the offense doesn't really need anything because of how good it was last year. Whether or not that's a fool's errand remains to be seen. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans, they have a lot of targets, receptions that they need to replace with the departures in the wide receiver group and Jonnu Smith. So I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver from Minnesota, one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft class, and it's not just because of the Minnesota bias. Moving on, we have the New York Jets. Struggled really what to do with this draft pick. Thought about going with Elijah Vera Tucker to really solidify the offensive line by beefing up the interior. Instead, I went defense, edge rusher with Gregory Rousseau from Miami. A little bit of a run on edge rushers. At this point in the draft, we've had Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari, Jason Owe, and now Gregory Rousseau come off the board. That's good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are picking next at 24 overall. They're going to take Elijah Vera Tucker, the offensive tackle from USC, to replace Andrew Villanueva, who has departed in free agency. And last I heard today was actually meeting with the Baltimore Ravens, which that's going to come into play in a minute here. Next, we have the Jaguars at 25 overall, and I believe best player available at this point. And for me, that's going to be Trayvon Mulray, safety from TCU. I know they went out and they got some secondary help in free agency. I understand all that, but remember, I don't care who's on the roster or the moves that they made up to this point. I believe in just getting a player that's going to help them, and I think Trayvon Mulray is going to do that. The secondary for Jacksonville next year should be really freaking good. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns. They made this easy by releasing Sheldon Richardson this past week. So he is now a free agent. They got Jadeveon Clowney to play on the other side of the defensive line opposite of Myles Garrett. I think they could still use another piece at the edge position, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was somebody like a Peyton Turner or something like that. But there's now a hole in the interior with Sheldon Richardson gone, so I believe they'll take the best one on the board. That's Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama, going to Cleveland. Next, we have the Ravens, and I remember, not remember, but I think I already mentioned something about this earlier in the video, so we sort of circle, everything comes full circle here with the Ravens. I think Orlando Brown is going to be traded. It's going to be a draft week or a draft day, same day trade, so they will need a new right tackle. Tevin Jenkins makes sense, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. According to what I've read, the NFL views him as a right tackle and not a left tackle, so he will make his new home in Baltimore. Next, we have the Raiders that traded down. They need offensive line help because they just released everybody. So I'm going to go with Sam Cosmi, the offensive tackle from Texas. So he will go to the Raiders in Vegas. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, and there's been one player that's been falling down this board, and I don't know if you've noticed it so far or not, but he's finally going to come off here. The Packers are going to take a chance on him with the value of the position, and I think Packers fans might have something else to talk about this time with their first-round pick. I mean, it's just been a number of years that they've been doing this, where they've been the topic of discussion at the water cooler. So they're going to take a chance on Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech, and the reason I have him falling this far is because of the medical concerns. He's had 2 back surgeries in 2 years. So does that mean he's not a top 10 talent? Absolutely not. I think if he was healthy, or if he at least didn't have the second back surgery, I'd still have him in the top 10, clear as day. But unfortunately, the situation dictates otherwise. So that is where the Packers will go at 29 overall. Which brings us to the Buffalo Bills at number 30, and this is the nightmare scenario for the Buffalo Bills. All of the top edge rushers are gone. I don't know if you spend a first-round pick on a Peyton Turner or a Ronnie Perkins or a Carlos Basham. I'm not sure that you would want to do that. All of the really, top-tier offensive tackles are off the board. So I think the Bills in this scenario are going to trade down, and I think they're going to trade down with the Eagles, so it won't be that far of a drop. I think it's like 7 picks. So Howie Roseman gets aggressive. He trades back into the first round, which is 30th overall, and he's going to address the cornerback position, and he's going to take Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State, make him a first-round pick, bring him in with Darius Slay in Philadelphia. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who badly need an offensive tackle. Could they go Liam Eichenberg? Could they go Alex Leatherwood? Yeah, sure, but I want to make this interesting. I'm going to have them make a trade for their new left tackle. Their new left tackle is going to be Orlando Brown. He's going to come in from the Ravens, so we're going to have the Ravens jump back into the first round, take over the Chiefs spot at 31, and they're going to grab a wide receiver. They're going to grab Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver from Florida, and I think that that's just an interesting fit. Pair him with, I think they signed Sammy Watkins in free agency, Marquise Brown still there. I think Greg Roman has to adjust and turn this into a more threatening passing attack in order for the current system, which is the run game, to continue to succeed. So that is my thought process there. Last but not least, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. what do you give to a roster defending Super Bowl champions that already have it all? Honestly, you look at every position on this team, they don't need a damn thing. They could go best player available. That makes the most sense. But honestly, what is best player available here at 32 overall? It's essentially a second-round pick at this point. So the thing that I thought was interesting when I was perusing the depth chart for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Buccaneers fans are going to hate this, but I'm going to do it because I don't care. Let me hear it in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and address a position that they don't need right now, but they're definitely going to need next year or maybe the year after. And getting a player in the first round means you get to the fifth-year option. So why not go with a quarterback? Because there's no other quarterback active on this current roster other than Tom Brady, according to their website. So if that is not up to date, I apologize, but it's, as of this recording, Tom Brady's the only listed active quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm going to give them Kyle Trask. They're going to keep him in Florida. I know the Mason Rudolph comparisons. I know everybody's really been down on him ever since the bowl game where the rest of his, loaded team opted out. I get all that. But, there's a reason that Trey Lance and Mac Jones are first-round picks. There's a reason that guys like E.J. Manuel in the past, J.P. Lossman in the past, even what was the one guy the Denver Broncos drafted that didn't make much sense? He played at Memphis, Paxton Lynch. There was a reason he was a first-round pick, is because the league overvalues the quarterback position in the draft, so that's why that happened. So I'm going to go with Kyle Trask, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as the quarterback of the future, maybe because you get the fifth-year option. And honestly, what the hell else do they need? They're probably just going to pound their way back to the Super Bowl with the roster that they already just did that. So that is going to do it for this mock draft for the 2021 NFL draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. 6 trades happen. We have some players fall down the board, like Micah Parsons. Caleb Farley tumbles all the way to 29. And the Vikings trade back and get an edge rusher, which I believe they're going to address the defensive line, or at least some part of the defense, because let's face it, it's Mike Zimmer, it's Rick Spielman, and I think Mike Zimmer is going to get his way. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.